There is something else. There is something else that I want to talk about when it comes to this Diddy story. It's kind of made me realize the importance of something, which is that going to jail is a really horrible thing. You know, you have your freedom taken away from you. Apparently, you can't even go on the computer or on the phone, or you have all your privileges stripped away from you, not just for a couple of days, but for the whole length of time that you're in there. Sometimes courts can take months or years before they actually go to court. If this was being said about other countries, in Palestine they've been locking up Israelis, or in Israeli they've been looking up Palestinians, and they've been keeping them in prisons for months without even a trial. I mean, isn't that kind of what's going on in America? Why are people insulting things like this? I would insult countries that keep people in prison, unless, of course, they're in prison for having sex with children. I think that's one of the few that, if you want to keep them in prison for a long extended time without a trial, if you know that they were about to marry a 6-year-old or a kid, or someone under 14 or under, I wouldn't have any problem with keeping them in prison without trial. If you've got evidence that they were doing that, then yes. But it's just, when it comes to this Diddy case, I'm thinking about, I don't know what's gone on. If he's been getting people drunk and having sex with them, it's and sort of convincing them to have sex because of them being drunk. It is crime. It is crime. It is a crime. It is bad. But there are a lot of questions that need to be asked. Was he drunk? Was he high? Why did these girls hang around him if they knew that he's going to? How many times did it happen? If it happened a couple of times, then you could ask the questions like, why did they let it happen a couple of times? If you didn't know it was about to happen, then okay, that would be the reason. But if it did happen multiple times, I'm not hearing any details about the story, so I cannot talk about the story because I don't know the details, and it's going to prison is a horrible thing, and I actually I insulted the idea of people who go to prison because of being a victim. In some countries in the Middle East, if a victim says, I was raped by this person, they could actually go to jail for adultery, even though it wasn't their choice to have sex with that person. Now, this is completely wrong, and I completely don't agree with it. But thinking about it makes me think that actually, I feel like there is something in it that should happen in prisons. A lot of people don't realize how awful it is to be in a prison and to have the constant threat of feeling like prisoners or inmates might stab you or rape you, or to live with this every day, having shitty food, living in a horrible cell, ugly walls, bars on your window, being treated like some sort of animal, and then to have to go through it for years and years and years because of something that you did wrong in about half an hour. And okay, I think there's a lot of people that are coming forward in the Dizzy case, but if part of this was people, fans flogging over him and wanting him and stuff like this, and there could be right and wrong with it. But I'm just wondering how many other people are in prison because of a mistake they made in half an hour, and they have to then spend 15 years, 10 years, even 5 years. 5 years is a huge amount of time, and there's so many people that insult rape. It's bad, you shouldn't do it, and these people should be punished. But I feel like there is an inability that people have to not recognize how bad 2 years in prison was. That was the case of that Islamic girl who was apparently taken into the desert and R-worded 14 times by 7 different guys. It's absolutely terrible, and it's terrible that she was given 6 months jail for being a victim and for speaking out, and that's a horrible thing. But I think she didn't actually go to jail. I think she was flogged 200 times, but the guys were flogged 1,000 times. But yeah, the case on that, which has made me think that okay, you should definitely not put people in prison for being a victim. But the woman who was talking about it said that these men only got 2 years to 10 years in jail, and she was acting like that's terrible. They deserve life. They deserve to be locked up in prison for the rest of their life. And okay, it is kind of different when it's 7 guys. If it's 7 guys on one person, I think that's just sick, because they would just watch they obviously enjoyed watching someone being abused, and therefore they do have a complete sickness. But there are a lot of people that would maybe do that to one woman. Maybe they're high, maybe they're drunk, maybe they fancied this woman and they really wanted it and they couldn't get it, and so it turned into a rape. And then they could spend 2 to 10 years in prison for something like that. And I feel like the victim, might exaggerate claims because their goal would be to send that person to prison for as long as possible, and I think that's actually the victim being the abuser, because 10 years for a crime, for a rape that happened that lasted 50 minutes, maybe the guy was high, maybe he had a very bad day, maybe there was all these circumstantial reasons behind it. And I don't know what's going on in the jail, but I don't really know what's going on with the Diddy case either, because I don't know the details. I'm not hearing any of the details. But I feel like there must be so many people in prison where the only reason why they've got a huge, like 10 years is because of exaggerated claims. Maybe they did take advantage, maybe they were wrong, maybe they knew they were in the wrong and they still did it, and they deserve to go. 2 years in prison is a long time. That's 720 days, and 28 days, 728 days every night, being in prison, not night and day, going through losing your life, not being able to pay your mortgage, maybe losing your house, maybe losing your wife, maybe losing your kids, and losing all your friends, and just having everything taken away from you. And there's so many people that would just be like, he only got 2 years. Only got 2 years. And I just feel like these people are horrible. I really feel like these people are horrible, because I don't think they have any ability to understand how awful it would be to have this done to you. And prisons, I think, can be hugely abusive to prisoners, because of people can say this happened, and that could be the truth, and then they can start adding in lies. Oh, the rape lasted 7 hours. Really, you've got hotel footage of it lasting 2 hours. You've got them walking in a certain room and her coming out 2 hours later. But if she then later goes on in court and says it was 7 hours and it happened over and over again, you've caught that person out on a lie. And I think people who if someone is exaggerating how bad something is, I think they should face jail time for doing that. Because if the crime that they've committed, the guy deserves a year in prison, 360 days of being treated like an animal, not being able to pay their mortgage, maybe losing their house, you've ruined their life. And there's so many people that can listen to cases like this and just be like, he only got 1 year, that's nothing. And then you're just thinking, but the crime he committed was bad, but they were both drunk, and there's sometimes there's loads of excuses for Wyatt, and the guy tried to murder his wife, but his wife was talking night and day to the Holy Spirit about this personal connection that with Jesus, and you can just you can imagine how awful it would be for you to be in that situation. And I think people really need to start sympathizing with the abusers, and being able to I don't know enough about the courts, about who the people are in jail, why they're in jail, what were their circumstances, and I just feel like there's just such a coldness in the general population. I'm listening to the YouTubers talk about these cases that they don't actually know anything about, but they are talking about it as if they do know, and as if no time in jail is long enough, and that Diddy should be in jail for the whole of his life, even though they don't actually know the situation, even though I'm not convinced that they know the details. I've read that form, or at least the first 8 pages, and it's just random sex trafficking, it's racketeering, but there's no details. There's no detail. Cases shouldn't be like this. Cases should be, this on this day this happened, and this day this claim happened. It should actually list the actual accusations and the actual crimes, and not just brand it as sex trafficking. He took a prostitute from Florida and paid for his flight, and they had sex in Mexico, and he paid her, and there's no details. There's no details in anything, and I'm getting really wound up by this because people are cold, and victims are cold, and I don't even like the name victim abuser, because by having victim abuser, it's like you say the victim has no part, that plays no part in her own victimization, and the abuser has no reason for wanting to be an abuser. The victim, the abuser probably is on drugs, probably on high, probably done this, and maybe the only reason why he did all this was because of the victim was encouraging him or making him want to do that. You know, there's just it's like this Christianity has destroyed the world, and it's destroyed the world by saying to people that there's God and there's Satan. Satan is the abuser, God is the victim, or the one that's going to fix everything, and just you brand people things, and by branding people things, you don't recognize that there's good and bad in everything, and listening to this case it's making me hate everyone, because you know that they're calling the prostitutes sex trafficking victims, when really, if the prostitutes are having sex with unconscious women who aren't actually doing this by choice, they're not the victims, they're the abusers. And I feel like in many of these cases that go to court, there's a blurring between victim and an abuser. Both the victim is turning into an abuser by exaggerating their claims and trying to lock someone up for 30 years. And it's really winding me up, because I want to speak for all the cases, but I don't know all the cases, and I only know the cases that come to the public light, and this to me just is one more story that's just winding me up and aggravating me, because I'm seeing everyone rush to the defense of the victims, whilst there being so many questions as to who they are, who they are, and why Cassie's not speaking out. I mean, if Cassie's got a £30 million settlement, then she is no longer a victim. She is someone who's made £30 million out of something that I probably would have been happy to go through just to make a couple of 100,000. You know, that would have made my whole life so much better. And I would have loved to go to the parties that she went, and to all the places that she went. And okay, I don't want to be hit, but I bruise incredibly easy. I do cheerleading, and my legs would be covered in bruises, and I got all those bruises from people squeezing my ankles trying to lift me up, but I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed being at the top. I enjoyed that. We didn't actually do that many hard stunts, but I enjoyed the stunts that we did, even though sometimes I got dropped and I ended up with bruises all over my legs. And then to hear people just talk about, look, she's got bruises all over herself, that's proof that there's abuse. Yeah, or maybe she just bruises easily, or maybe, you know, there can be a number of reasons why someone would have bruises all over. And so to take the small amount of evidence that they have as proof that this woman is a victim, and then to call her a victim when I'm just jealous of you know, oh, look, she's in a nice party wearing a really nice dress, surrounded by, you know, cameras and people that are giving her attention, and the whole thing's just winding me up. It really is. It's winding me up because the public are just understanding everything so wrongly. You know, these prisons seem like horrible places, and they should be for horrible people. They shouldn't just be for people who got a bit high and thought that they were having sex consensually, when really, was it? I mean, do they know? Did the victim know? And if the victim knew and it happened 5 years ago, why did they not say anything nearer the time? And I'm just the more I find out about this question, the more question marks I have about it, and to listen to loads of people talk about it and not have these same questions, and just want to brand people victim and abuser rather than see both sides of the story. I hate humans. I hate how they would do this. I hate how they would categorize people as victims or abusers rather than just saying accuser. I think instead of calling the victims, call them accusers, because that's more realistic to what they are. They are accusing people of doing things whilst claiming to be a victim. And if you don't know if the crime was justified, or if there was a reason behind it, then they're not victims. They're a victim after the court has made the decision. And I think calling them a victim before that, it is only going to encourage the courts. I don't trust the courts. I don't trust the jury. I don't trust the public for making good decisions, because I'm seeing what they're saying, and I'm not seeing them being reasonable or justifying why they believe what they believe. So what if there's a bruise on Cassie's arm? That doesn't prove that Diddy was responsible for that. So just to see how they're reacting is just making me hate humans and making me not like them.